Hello, everyone. Kenyon here, Basketball Rewind. We are back, part two of the episode with Nelly J. Of course, we are going to be continuing on, rolling through. We just finished a lively discussion about the Raptors. We talked about a little bit of free agency, and now we're going to go to the W. Of course. So without a further ado, we're gonna go. Beyond came up with a lot of these topics for today. I did some research. I do actually watch a little bit of the W, but it's just been crazy. But I know enough to contribute to the conversation. So we're gonna start with expansion. My favorite topic, of course. Because that's where all the money is made these days. Of course, the expansion was recently, announced. There's some controversy with players, pulling their, Joakim Noah equivalent, with certain with certain markets, and then double dipping, and then the double dip down was still insulting. And sometimes it's better if people kind of keep quiet there.
I would say Nelly and I, we need to talk about that individual on a side note offline because
Yeah. We could
there's a
have
lot
that.
going on with her. I'll just put it
Oh
that
my
Yeah,
way.
gosh.
yeah. You,
It's
you you heard what I said. Sometimes it's yeah.
mm-mm.
Anyways, we'll talk later.
Yeah,
There's
Yeah, yeah,
there's
we'll
this
conversation. Oh my gosh.
education at its finest. So in terms of the expansion markets, we're looking at Cleveland, Detroit, and Philly. I think one of the teams, probably just from a historical standpoint, should have been Houston, but we'll talk about that in a second. It is interesting that a lot of them are on one side of the coast than the other. I do want to also ask you at some point about Vancouver, but I just want to say one thing just to start this off. Obviously part of this is because of the growing interest in the women's game as of late. But I think one of the other things that is true that is important is that while they did expand in before and then contracted, you do have to strike while the iron's hot. I mean, Joe Tsai's, I believe it's his wife, I'll say partner for now. I think her name is Clara Wu Tsai. She bought the Liberty back in 2019 for between 10 and 14 million dollars. It's now that franchise with a recent championship, of course, the new TV deal rights, is now worth over 450 million dollars as a franchise standalone. I mean, the first question that I have for both of you guys is, how is this different than the, 98, 2000, kind of expansion? I do know that there are more stable NBA franchises that can pair up with it, but yeah, your guys' thoughts?
Um, okay, I'll jump in here. So yeah, just to give specificity, um, 2028 is going to be Cleveland. 2029 is going to be Detroit, and Philadelphia's going to be 2030. As far as what makes it different, obviously '08, we know about what happened in the economy. All these teams kind of collapsed in this case here. A lot of these teams collapsed at the time that the league was up to 16 teams. After this, in 2030, it'll be up to 18 teams. I think the difference here now versus then is not only is the NBA obviously in a much healthier place than it was there to kind of carry some of these teams. I think also too the league itself is in a better place with the new TV deal that's coming in. I
Hmm.
do believe they have it out after 3 years, which is going to be very important in this discussion. And they also are getting, hey man, these franchise numbers are coming in big, man. Here's the numbers in the last 3 years. Golden State, 50 million. Toronto and Portland, about 110 to 115 million when they added the arenas and stuff they had to add with it. This one here, 250 a pop for each one of these boys. 250, a quarter of $1 billion in this case here. So whenever the time comes, because I will get to Houston, but it's pretty obvious that Houston is coming.
Yeah, they're coming for
I
sure.
don't. We can already guarantee that at least the baseline is going to be over 300 million. That is the difference with now and then. And I
Hmm.
think there's other revenue streams that are coming as well too. You've already discussed it many times with the betting elements of it. That is like money. That's like free money for sports leagues now, and many other reasons why I think they're in a much healthier place. That this is the reason why it's different now than back then. And quite honestly, they have more marketable stars. No disrespect to the stars of the past. I think they were very good stars. I got love for a lot of them, but I think there's a marketability of these stars with how they use social media that encourage more potential, more eyeballs in this case here. And let's face it, I think they are. I don't know. I think the generation today they are. is almost like breathing oxygen when it comes to how they know to self-market themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It was for some of us in this case from a later vintage that did not come natural to us. There's nothing wrong with it, just different times. For them, by the time they're 5 or 6, they already know in this case how to put a video, do their IG, and show them their new kicks. They know what they're doing. So by the time they get to 17 or 18, they're like a walking industry. So I think that is another element that we're not talking about. Nelly, the floor is yours.
No, everything you said, I agree. I also think that, I mean, a study came out last year that talked about the fastest growing sports industries, women's sports, period. And they had the numbers about the increase of revenue stream. So this is not like, yes, the players are doing well, but I think from a business standpoint, the numbers do not lie. And numbers are showing each year since the pandemic, we've seen double in ticket sales, double in value. And they actually projected that it's going to get more and better. Like they're in a great position. To your point, we're seeing women's college explode, right? And the W finally are using March Madness and women's college as a way to also shout out players, right? And I feel like the transition now, 'cause remember, it's March Madness for the women. 2 weeks later, it's a draft. So what a great way to promote your league. And they're now getting more fans because now the college players are bringing their fan bases to the WNBA. That wasn't happening for a while, right? I feel like the first player I saw do that, Sabrina Ionescu, when she first came out, a lot of her fan base became Liberty fans because her jerseys were like sold out in like 5 minutes. It was crazy online, right? So we saw it with her, and we're seeing more and more of that. I think back in the day, to your point, Beyond, a lot of basketball players, even like Brandon Stewart, they didn't really care about social media, DT. They weren't really into that stuff, right?
Candace Parker was quite marketable.
It wasn't
Really
something that they cared to do. And so I think now we're seeing players like Paige come into the W with 2 million followers. 2 million before she did the basketball. Caitlyn Clark, million followers, right? Sabrina, million followers. Angel Reece, she's the most followed WNBA player in the entire league. She's the most popular one, right? So again, like we're seeing more players coming in with passions outside of basketball and utilizing that. We're seeing Visa Collier and Brianna Stewart having a secondary league. So they're trying to keep their talent within the US so they don't have to play in Europe and then play W. They're playing in the States all year round. And I really believe that Unrivaled helped fed more fans to the W. People that didn't know in the field of Collier were like, oh yeah, I remember her from Unrivaled. Oh shoot. Right? Aaliyah Edwards now is a household name because she tore up Brianna Stewart in a 101, right?
those 101s, man. Like I mean, my timeline was going crazy every time.
Exactly.
So like
right? So like we're seeing like these players are investing within themselves. And so I think women's sports in general, basketball, soccer, big up to Trinity Rodman, like all these athletes are becoming stars, right? And they're invested in their sport and their passion. And now, so to your point, this is bound to happen. And the W, they're smart to do it now because they're going to make a lot more money by having these teams get purchased later on, right? Because trust me, by 2030s, it'll be probably more than 300 million for a team, right? And so I do believe that these team valuations, because even Seattle, their evaluation was 100 million, 150, about 2-3 years ago. And they're the most valued franchise a couple years ago, Seattle Storm.
I think it's Liberty now. I think I heard.
And now it's Liberty, right? So again, like these teams, as they win championships, guess what? The value goes up. The value goes up, right? And so like, I'm very excited, and Houston has to come back because I've been historically a big Houston fan because I'm a big Cynthia Cooper fan. I loved her. But I also think, too, back in the day, the stars of the W were older. These women were in their 30s. They were in their 30s playing in the W. They weren't 21, 22 out of college. They were all in their 30s, late 20s, already played 10 years of basketball professional-wise and came up in the W. So I think we now have a different product where we're getting younger talent from college coming in, and we have older talent that is also veterans in the league. So I think by having the league, having more teams, we'll have a better product, because I think the young players bring something that the older players do not have, unfortunately, right? The young players have more marketability. they have more engagement. You know, they understand the game of social media. The older players do not, right? And they have less influence. So I think it'll be good for the W to have a good mix, like the NBA, young, mid, and older, right? So yeah, I'm excited for it.
I must admit, I'm the only person there, Kenyon, that I did not realize in this case. I'm not a women's soccer fan. Like, I'm more casual on that front.
Yeah.
Right.
Tennis fan. I did not know Ben Shelton and Trudy Rodman were a thing till like yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like,
For a while now. Yeah, for a while.
I was the only one showing my old man card I got here because I was like, wait, that's a thing. I had to go on the old Google there. It's like, oh damn, this is a real thing here. It's like,
yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, no, and Rodman, like she's good. She was the highest paid soccer player at one time. Right? So she's like she's good.
I knew them separately, but it's like I didn't know they were a thing together. They're separate disciplines. Like, oh,
yeah, that's so cool, eh?
Yeah. Hey, he's got a chance to win the whole thing. But
exactly. I mean, no, and I've been a Shelton fan since USA Open a couple years ago when I first saw him. I think was it 2 years ago he first played? But yeah, he's been like up and coming guy. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna be good. He's gonna get there. But I'm sorry, off topic. But the tennis era that we got to see with Federer, Nadal, those, I mean, that will never be replaced. Like Novak, all in the same era. That was a time to be alive. Okay, if you're a tennis fan, to see 3 goats at one time playing each other.
And back to our regularly scheduled program.
Yep. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was gonna just in terms of my thoughts on Van City. Do you think that there's a chance that they ever get a
not for a while? Not for a while. Yeah. But I think it's reliable on how good Toronto does. That's a big thing. I think if Toronto can do what I think it can, and we show the W that having a team outside of the U.S. is profitable, then I think Vancouver will benefit from that. Just like how the NBA has Vancouver as a city to go to for the NBA. Yeah. I think if Toronto Tempo can do what I think it can, which is show like we have basketball fans here, supporters of that community, everything here, I think they're going to do well. Because listen, imagine during Pride Month, we have WNBA games here. It's going to be lit. We have people come all over, come to Toronto. So I think we're going to show the W that this is a profitable market in Canada, and I think Vancouver will do a really good job if they get a team.
I think you're closer than you think.
Mm-hmm. Well, in my opinion, the demographics are a little bit different in Vancouver in a way where it benefits the NBA.
Yeah, no,
and WNBA.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there's also with both leagues, there's been a focus of the Northwest, right? Next year. On the other side, let's face it, Seattle's going to be back in the NBA within the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a focus in that Northwest area. To your point, with the demographics, the money went out there as well too. That
a lot of money in Seattle. I know the Seattle economy was like that. Yeah. How expensive. I'm like, wow, it's like Toronto. It just boomed.
Vancouver is like obviously the most expensive city in the country. Like there is going to be, I think, more likelier that we think that Vancouver is back in the mix. And we've heard proactively the commissioner of the NBA talk about Canadian.
Yeah. Montreal too. They might think they'll have a team in Montreal. I'm like, whoa.
I don't think Montreal's what he's thinking of initially, but nonetheless, be it Montreal or Vancouver, he's thinking Canada. So I don't think that we should dismiss that Vancouver's going to be out of place soon. And I'll make this one point from an expansion standpoint. The former Marlins GM or executive David Sampson, he's on the Lebertard show. Not a big fan of him if you know the Expo situation, but I respect his acumen when it comes to these type of things because he was in the building, he was in the rooms when it comes to TV deals. And he said last year he's not sold the W yet in this case when it comes to money making and stuff like that, which is true. Technically, this might be the first year they might be making a profit. However, he said that if you want to be seen on TV circles as a real league, like a legitimate league, you got to get to 20 teams.
That makes sense.
Because you need the inventory at some level to be in front of eyes enough. The other thing is I hope that because right now I think the NBA does a good job that after every single game I can go and look at the specific play types and see, how many, the field goal attempts of, Angel Reece or whoever else. But I think that the W from a website infrastructure standpoint, they need to do better.
Well, I know they've admitted that they have old technology and old infrastructure on even their app. I have their app and I have it, and I'm so mad because
though, Nelly. I find their app better than
Well,
Netflix.
I think both apps
So,
are bad, but
no, like I feel like the app is better. It's okay this year, but I feel like even the app, like, yeah, it's not bad, but I feel like, like I don't have the NBA app, so I don't use it for a reason. To your point, the W, I have to use the app because I can rewatch games afterwards. But for example, if you go back to watch a game, I can't just forward to the spot I'm gonna watch. I have to literally press like 10, 10. I have to kept pressing 10 to get to where I want. I can't just press forward and play a specific quarter. That, like, come on, guys, like that should be an easy plugin. Like I should be able to go to a game, forward it to the half I'm gonna watch, and rewatch that half. Like so, like stuff like that in terms of their platform and how they're housing their media, and just like how easy it is to navigate. I think it's very old for 2025. That should be an easy, like, hey guys, if I'm someone that has the app, or I'm paying money to have this, like this viewership, I should be able to go to an actual spot of a game and rewatch it, right? Or I should be able to see what I want to see. So I just think stuff like that is limitation. But even sometimes, like the camera, like, is it HD? Is it 4K? Like small things they have to just do better at. That's all.
I would say that the new TV deal with Amazon involved, obviously they've had the Amazon deal beforehand, but now they're going to have the NBA as well with it. I would not be surprised. We discussed that pretty thoroughly when it came to the entire deal. There's still a part that has not been sorted out that people don't know. And that is what happens to NBA TV and the web and the website.
yeah,
And the app has not been dealt with yet. I have a sneaky suspicion Amazon's going to be the group that might be dealing with some of that. Because now they're off of TNT, who is managing a lot of this stuff. I'll say this, going back to the 18 and 20 teams. The reason why I brought that up, the David Sampson point, is going back to Houston. Listen, commissioners are like politicians. If they say something, they say it purposeful. They're not saying it just for the sake of saying it. So if she mentioned Houston and had that much time in the press conference about Houston, I say so about my favorite, commissioner in sports. I say that with tongue firmly in cheek. Kathy Engelbert. she said Houston, essentially she's giving the hint that Houston's coming. And Houston was my number one team to get back in the league, to get the lineage, to Nelly's point, having the legacy and that history behind it. I think to some extent Detroit is also that reason why Detroit got back in the league. Because let's face it, they've won a championship. They've broken attendance records. Detroit has had some historical games. Some of them not so positive at times too. I'll just leave it at that. Candace Parker, I see you. That said, get the 20. Houston's the 19th team that's coming. The question is, what's the other Western Conference team? So I see three markets in play. That's why I said Vancouver may not be so far along, because I see potentially these three teams are kind of.
So Houston, Vancouver for you, and which other team?
No, it's Houston and one of four teams.
And one other team, yeah.
Vancouver, Austin, Kansas City. My girl Sophie mentioned them. Kansas City, and then Denver.
Right.
So those are the four teams. I think one of those four might get the last bid for now to get to 20 at that point. Now, which one would it be? It could be some synergy. They have Vancouver and Toronto together, so they had the NBA had it, where they have one East and one West.
Right.
Denver is usually a market most major teams have a Denver team.
And the infrastructure is cheaper, so easier ROI can be with Denver.
Yeah.
For that, and KC also has infrastructure.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
They got arena sitting downtown no one's using.
Yeah, they have infrastructure. That's why I feel like, because it seemed like when they first approached Toronto MLSC for the group, their biggest thing was location, right? And access to a good arena, because they wanted an arena downtown. They didn't want to play in Brampton or other places. They wanted a team in downtown Toronto, and the commission was very adamant to that. So I think those three cities, right, will have to be a place where it's downtown, there's infrastructure, and there's an arena that people can go to and easy access. So depending on which of those three, I feel like Denver, KC, Vancouver has infrastructure. I just haven't been there in a while. I mean, I haven't been to a hockey game in a while to see what it's like, or how big it is. But I think what might hinder them is that if the Denver ownership group wants a team, I think they will win it over KC and Vancouver, because they already have an NBA team. If they want, of course, a team there.
Yeah. So just to kind of move along, I think Paige Beckers is probably the next topic of discussion.
So I think what Paige is doing I love Paige's game, man. This girl's such a hooper. I've always been a fan of her game from when she first came into, college, seeing what she does, but she really is a special talent. And not just because it's like she reads the room. You know what I'm saying? And she can play with other stars and she can cook with other people, right? I think it's a talent. Some people can only cook and their players do okay, but I feel like she plays better when other people around her are hooping. Like Isaiah James has been hooping a lot better with Paige because, unfortunately, you know, Enrique, you're kind of person that likes to play and have the ball, but Paige knows how to distribute and get involved, but also drop her 20 and you drop 20 at the same time and not hindering you. You know what I'm saying? And that's a skill set I think that she does. She also plays good defense. She has long arms. So on the perimeter, it's hard to go by her quickly. She isn't afraid of contact. She will literally go into the lane with people in front of her, and because she's shifty, she can change direction. She can do a nice little finger roll. Like she's such a great talent, and she can win you off the dribble. Like she can win you off the dribble and create her space without having to touch you or whatever. Like her handles are good enough to do that, right? So her court vision, like she's such a complete player, and I think a lot of folks. I mean, I knew that she would be okay in a W, but just seeing it now, like her getting comfortable with the contact, she's getting, I mean, like pushed over all that stuff. But it's like she's okay with it because she understands this is basketball.
No, you don't
So
need a federal investigation about it now in this case. We're okay.
no, but that's the thing though. I feel like, and her fans aren't like, I call the Caitlinites, the cult following fans, the CCC, Triple C. But I do think like watching Paige play, even Sonia Citron, Kiki, all these girls, they've been in fights, they've been, talking, but they get over it, right? It's like I just think what we're seeing now is just hoopers playing basketball and just wanting to win. So I'm really happy for Paige. I think it's refreshing, and and I think it hopefully like people are seeing. Oh shoot, this is what a true point guard slash scorer can do. Because I think for me, Caitlyn Clark is a shooter. She's not really a scorer, right? Like she can shoot the ball, step back, step back, step back, step back. Cross, push off, step back, right? Yes, she can go downhill occasionally, but when she does, it's like she wants to call. Whereas Paige will go downhill, get pushed over, fall, make the bucket, and run back. Like, whatever, let's go. Right? So I just think we're seeing two different types of personalities. I still Caitlin Clark is a great player. I'll say Caitlin's probably a better passer because she's a really phenomenal passer. But I think Paige does a lot of different things that Caitlin cannot do. And I really think, I'm hoping Paige I think if Dallas can win more games and be in a conversation in the playoffs, I think we're going to have a really good conversation about, okay, who really is a better guard between Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers? Because I think that has been a debate since college. And I think now it's like, shoot, this is an actual debate. Like Paige can also be an all-time great in this league because how she's playing now is not going to stop because she is creating shots and she's doing a lot more than just shooting and assisting. She's doing everything. Steals, blocks, you name it.
And so why do you think, Caitlyn has really struggled this year? I mean, you and I have talked about it a little bit, and I've talked about it with Beyond as well. I think part of it is, the adjustment into the WNBA, into the professional league, which is different than the adjustment that you have to make to be successful at the college level. And I think especially when the spacing is a little bit wider and broader, you have to be able to adjust where there are certain spaces in the floor that teams are trying to push you into, and that's where you have to find ways to thrive in those spots, and that would be probably the mid-range. Yeah. I'm just wondering your thoughts, because right now I'm looking just between the between the two guards that you mentioned, Paige and as well as CC, they have very similar numbers, except for CC is putting up a Fred VanVleet stat line. Yeah. And so, like, at that point, it's like your efficiency needs to get way up. They actually go to the line the same amount. So it's really just like, Paige is shooting around 47% versus, Caitlyn, who's shooting around 39%, which is just, there's a big jump there.
I think the biggest difference from when I see them both play, I feel like Paige lets the game come to her, and she is not forcing passes, forcing shots. Like you really see Paige force herself to do something, which is probably, if you look at the turnovers, it's probably a big gap between Caitlyn Clark's and Paige's, right? Turnovers per game.
Right.
And I think because Paige is more of, because I can shoot at all three levels efficiently, right? She'll have a more offensive, efficient game. But I think Paige does not force it. So if, like, Caitlyn wants to go to her spot and take threes all the time, and she can only go right, right? She can't go left. Whereas Paige can go left and right and kind of can go either way and score either way. Whereas Caitlyn, she always wants to go to the right side of the basketball. Always wants to go to the same side. And everyone knows that. That's why we watched the epic when UConn played them. My girl just stood to the right of her. Like, I'm not gonna let you go right. I'm gonna force you to go to the spot to go left, right? So
Right.
I think with Paige, you cannot do that. She is so versatile in her handles. You have to kind of defend her in a fair way. Whereas Caitlyn, because she's gonna force her way to that side, right? She gets foul calls. She pushes off because she has not improved on her game to be able to go both ways. And I think if Caitlyn can improve on that aspect of her basketball, I think she knows this too, she will be a more complete player and won't be as limited. But Caitlyn is such a good shooter, right? It's just like she can come down and shoot. But in a basketball sequence, you have 5 guys on the court. So Paige is better at maximizing her other players on the court and use them, but better than Caitlyn. If Caitlyn focused mostly on point guarding and would shoot when the shot was there, I think we'll see a better basketball player. But Caitlyn sometimes is forcing herself to score and shoot. Like, Caitlyn, you have 4 other all-stars beside you that are really good in basketball. Maximize on that. And I think that's where she will get better if she learns to use her teammates a bit better.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in on this point because I think this is where I think this is on Caitlyn to some extent. And this is the problem when you acquiesce to a young star too quickly. When Christy Sides last year, and my man Mouth, and he and I have had these discussions offline, and everyone was killing Christy Sides last year, say, I see what she's trying to do. Now, she had some moments strategically at times where it's like, okay, but overall, I got what she's trying to do. She was trying to break her out of these habits, and no one wanted to hear her. And at the end of the year, she was playing some of the best basketball she might have ever played in her career last year. She was fantastic. The turnovers had dropped. The assist rate went up. The field goal percentage efficiency went up. And she was getting her teammates involved. And lo and behold, as Aaliyah Boston got better, guess what? Indiana got better. Because when it's all said and done, dirty little secret, folks, she's probably their best player. But no one will tell you that in the media. You hear a basketball rewind. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Now, they run her out of the building, and she got her girl, Stephanie White. She got her coach. And we're back now playing Iowa basketball again. We're chucking out 35-footers from the left side in this case here because that's her tendency. She want to go left and pull up for 3. Everybody in the league knows it. And to Nelly's point, when she goes to the right, she's looking to drive. Everyone knows it. So you just got to beat her to the spot, you get the charge. And now she's getting frustrated because she ain't getting those calls anymore. Sophomore slump. But once again, she's actually got a deeper team than she had last year. 2 other all-stars in the team. So I don't want anyone to say she needs help. And she got Natasha here this year. Heck, they're so good this year depth-wise, they ran DeWanna out of town. Wherever that situation, I don't know what's going on with that. But my point is that's how deep the team has been. And yet somehow still her numbers are worse. So at some point I have to ask myself, the team has won 4 out of 5 without you. That's usually not a good reflection. So that means there's something going on with you. So, I think at some point someone got to look in the mirror and ask themselves, are we playing the right way? To quote Larry Brown. That's my point. I'll just leave it at that. Clark fans, take it how you want it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's my point. I feel like Paige, she's always been more of a team player. And for those who remember, like, I forgot her coach last year when he talked about his issue with Paige is that sometimes she won't take initiative and just score. He was like, I wish Paige did that more often. Because he knows that she's a lethal scorer and shooter. But she's so team-oriented. She wants to get everyone around her, like, going, right? And Caitlyn, she has a little bit of that, but it's not natural to her. It's not a natural response. So I just think that they both approach their position differently. But I think Caitlyn is her best player when she does get everyone involved. And I want her to make that switch like to the point where it's a habit. It's not, I'm have to think of it.
Mhm.
And like when she does that, we're going to see a way better Paige because she can average 10 assists easily a game because she has the talent to what Beyonce said around her to do
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, leads the league right now. Clark leads the league right now with 5.9 turnovers a game.
Mhm. Now, yeah, it's not great.
But hey, to be fair, second assist 8.9. So
Yeah.
just to give both sides of it.
Now, really quickly, just to move on to Angel Reese, I think she has actually improved a lot this year. I think the biggest improvement that I've noticed is actually the her ability to actually pass the ball and play make. She's been put in certain situations that I've seen that have got well. Also, the efficiency has taken a slight uptick all around. She's obviously stepping out more, so her free throw numbers are going to be down for that reason because she's not going to be in the paint as much. But also, the game is opening up for her because she is able to not just make from the high post, but make passes from from the perimeter actually. So just any thoughts really quickly on Angel Reese, because I know everyone wants to make the juxtaposition for whatever reason, I don't know why, but yeah, but I actually
Uh,
don't mind her game, and I don't mind Caitlyn Clark's game as well. So yeah.
yeah, I think Angel Reese, her coaches now, because I think those passes she's been doing since LSU,
Yeah.
right? She's had that game, but I feel like for some reason in Chicago they didn't, and maybe it's probably why the coach is no longer there anymore. But they didn't maximize on all her skill sets, right? There's a
Mhm.
clog when it's her and Cardosa always playing inside and in the same space. I think Angel, she can play off the wing. She can play off the elbow. She can do like you can actually run plays where she can be like that high post, good make good passes, and she reads the ball. She reads the game very well. So I also think her handles got better. Like the fact that she can dribble, cross, dribble, like it's way more controlled. Before, she would be like looking kind of sloppy, but her handles got it better. And she's more patient with herself. I think sometimes, we forget, man, the pro league is a different level. Like it's not college, so it's intimidating. It's unnerving. So I think she needed some time to get familiar with herself. She has more confidence in the year that she did before, more confidence in her game, but she's understanding the W now. And it takes some players a year or two to figure it out. It took Sabrina a couple years to figure it out. Like everyone needs time. Kelsey Plum, her rookie year, she was freaking god awful. God awful, Kelsey. Look at her now. Like she's incredible. So I just think with Angel, she's going to get better. But I think if they can maximize her better, the W, depending on your coach, you can be screwed. Right? Another example is Aaliyah Edwards. She's in a bad position where I think she can do a lot for a really good team. Like you put her on Dallas, she's going to be cooking. You know what I'm saying? Because Dallas needs size. They need
Well,
length,
I
right?
got the trades. I already had 2 trades
You know what
lined
I'm
up.
saying?
That was one
Sorry,
of
but
them.
Aaliyah needs to go. So again, like I just think depending on where you are, even Letitia Latimer, right? She's on Valkyries. She was starting for them, playing for them. She was cooking. Now everyone's back. My girl didn't even play yesterday in the game. She didn't even play in that last game. Like they got no minutes, and she was their best player for 2 to 3 games. So again, in the W, depending on the coach and where you are, right? Like you will not get the opportunity, right? So Angel's in a great spot where she's getting minutes, and this new coach, you can tell he wants to maximize on her strengths and limit what she can't do. And I think we're seeing them play a lot better basketball, but I still think they need a point guard, and I wish they drafted Isaiah James. Because imagine Isaiah, because she was on the board over your girl, Haley. If they drafted Isaiah instead with Angel Reese, that team would have been an effing problem, right? But they passed on my girl Isaiah, who's cooking now in Dallas. So I just think like I hope Chicago trades and finds himself an actual scorer or guard. That would be fantastic.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a great discussion. As much as I want to go through every individual player, I do want to shift things over to one of the bigger teams, one of the more important teams that is struggling right now, which would be the Las Vegas Aces. Of course, Becky Hammond was the big hire there not that long ago. They are struggling. They do have, more recently, two recent championships. They have a three-time MVP in Asia Wilson, of course, doing her thing. However, they did make certain decisions, like trading plum for Lloyd. Like, obviously that was not the great, it hasn't worked out. They have also let go of their vets. Now, that is understandable. Their vets are getting old. I understand that people are, that are athletes today are playing longer and longer, but, it was probably the right decision to let go of, at age 35 and age 37,
Also
you
playing
know,
good minutes in Indiana right now.
yeah, hey, I'm just saying, and also to keep things, we talked about money before. To keep the team together, you have to be able to kind of work things around the salary cap. So I understand it, but that obviously has led to problems. In some ways, I said this to Beyond before. I said it's almost like Golden State Warriors, as if they went young but never ended up, after KD, but just stayed young, and that's it, and never ended up trying to get back into the mix. The other thing too that I've noticed is it seems like teams are, you win, people try to take you down. Teams are built to try to take them down. And so it's like, are they adjusting in the right way and adjusting fast enough? Just some thoughts on that. I'm wondering what you think, because I noticed that since they were number one in efficiency all across the board when they won. They are now like nowhere close to that. And so I'm just wondering, what are the struggles from your standpoint? I'm going to start with Nelly and then go back to Beyond after that.
I think their defense has gone down. They used to be a
Mm,
very good defensive team. That has, I don't know what happened. Having Asia, having Kelsey, having Jackie, having Chelsea, like they used to be a top defensive team. They're not anymore, right? They're not getting stops because like I've seen them live before. I actually went to the finals a couple years ago with Liberty and Aces, and so what really stood out to me like wow, they're a very defensive sound team, right? Like they're going to put big guards, Jackie Young, all those guys are going to force you to take shots you don't want to take, right? And they're very good interior. I remember they had Candace Parker at one time. Like they used to be
yep.
very a big team with good perimeter defenders. Now it's like Jewel Lloyd plays no defense. That girl doesn't want to smell defense. So you have a
Yeah.
girl starting that does not play two ways. And I think that's the biggest gap is that you had five starters that actually defended well and also can score. Right. And having one person not doing that is going to shift a little bit more responsibility than everyone else who has to defend. So I think Jewel Lloyd's at a place where you can't rely on her to win basketball games. And I think they thought that she could be reliable on that. And I think they expected too much from her because she has not played well. And I feel like if I was the Aces, I would have traded Jewel after a month. You know what? This ain't working out. I would have traded her already to say, you
I
know what?
mean,
You're someone that we adore, but you're not a good fit for our team. And I'm sure another team would want a Jewel Lloyd starting, right? And fit there and make that switch early. But it's kind of like, okay, we already committed to you, you're gonna stay here. So I just think it was a bad fit from the get-go because their pedigree was always two-way players, a defensive sound team, and everyone can play off ball, everyone can score, everyone can shoot. Because Jackie Young, Chelsea, all of them, Asia, they can all play off ball and they all can create their own shot, right? Whereas Jewel and play defense. That was their biggest thing. And hence why teams struggle against them. And Minnesota Lynx, they have that. All their starters play defense, can shot create, and can play off ball. That has been what has worked well for Minnesota, and they beat them last year. So I just feel like they went away from what worked, and they picked a name and not a role.
Yeah. And when you say tracks a lot, I mean, before I go to Beyond, I'll say this. Becky mentioned in some of her recent interviews, actually, one of the more recent interviews before and after the Fever game, she mentioned the word. It's almost a death nettle in some ways. Is the word effort from the team and lack thereof. The way that they started games, the way that they, they're not adjusting well. But the word effort came up about three or four times. And to your point, there's been talk of Lloyd perhaps coming off the bench as well. So. Yeah, Beyond your thoughts.
I would say, yeah, let's start with there's a couple things going on here. I mean, I know Lloyd is the odd like I would if I'm them, I would just lean into it. She's too talented a player, man. She's like a six-time All-Star, man. She's no chump down the street. So you gotta figure out a way to get things rolling for her. I mean, she's averaged like 24 a game in this league. So you gotta find a way to figure out how to make her work with your team. I get it. To Nelly's point, defense, but she's been on championship teams too. So she's not like she hasn't
Mm-hmm.
been on that. So it's like she understands how to get there. So you can figure out a way to do so and stuff. So I'm not putting. So I get Becky. I gotta ask you a question if that's the case, right? Because if it's effort, then we need to talk to you. What's the deal here? The second thing, listen, I think at some point they probably moved the wrong guard, and I think
Talk about it.
I think in this case here, like at some point you gotta realize that Chelsea Gray's best days are kind of behind her, and no one wants to say it, but they pretty much are. So we're gonna move. So what's happening now is everyone loves Chelsea, so we're gonna put it on Jewel. We got to move stuff, so we're gonna put it on Kelsey. But when it's all said and done, to me, that's where the it's one thing to your point. If Jewel Lloyd in this case defensively is going to be at the same level as the other girls, but here's the other problem too. Chelsea Gray ain't what she was like 2-3 years ago.
Nah,
So
she's not.
now you have two players in this case in your backcourt, by the way, which ain't good. It's put you in a position where now you got like Asia Wilson out of position half the time because she's around here chasing around, dribble penetration. That's the problem in my mind. The biggest issue with it. And on offense, it's like they kind of seem to forget like they have other ways. Like Chelsea Gray in this case here, I know she's point guard and stuff like that. I get that, but sometimes you gotta let some folks cook, man. you gotta read the game and say, okay, I gotta get Jewel going. There's no way Jewel Lowe all of a sudden forgot how to score. She's having 11 points a game. That's like half the amount she usually average. Like that's something's not right with that. I don't know when they're gonna realize they have to make a move on that. And I know, she's part of the championship core, but they already moved Kelsey. She's part of the championship core.
That's the thing. Like I would have, if it's between Chelsea and Kelsey, I would have picked Kelsey because she's a scorer and she does like she did a lot for them because to your point, they don't have a perimeter threat anymore.
No.
But having Kelsey on the perimeter as a defensive team, I'm like, shoot, I have to respect the aces because I know this is a threat on the outside. But if I'm playing the aces, I know all they're gonna try to shoot is all mid range or low. Mm-hmm. So if I just pack the paint, it's easy. Kelsey was someone that threatened from the outside, and fine, you trade her, get someone else to refill that spot. Someone that can actually make threes on the outside. They don't have anyone anymore. That's gone.
Yeah, she could get her own shot when the shot clock's down, which is something they're struggling with as well too. Even though they're whooping on someone today, I think it's Connecticut by about 20, but
yeah.
I
mean, it's Connecticut though. Is that like, are we surprised? Yeah.
Side note here, I got this from another podcast, so it's not my original idea, but I think someone mentioned this. Expansion-wise, just keep an eye out on a particular. If you're wondering why Boston has not been in the mix yet, just keep an eye on a particular team that right now doesn't have deep pockets. Just gonna say,
I have heard that they are that their ownership group, their new ownership group, I should say, is interested. So, I mean, it's beyond. You mentioned something, and we were talking the other day. I think Mouth of the North was part of this discussion. We were talking literally about the Aces, and I said, one of the things that exactly like how you were saying, I said, Asia Wilson is getting pulled out of the paint defensively. I focus more on the defense, not on the offense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I just kept seeing her get pulled out of the paint, and then the backline defender was like not her size at all, right? And so you have someone like to put it in Raptors terms for people, you had someone like the equivalent of Jamal Shed sometimes trying to hope and pray that they can guard the other team's either power forward or sometimes center, depending on how the switches went. That's just not going to work. And so you do that, you get a lot of back cuts, and then on top of that, I'm noticing that just the communication, this goes back to the Becky Hammond point, the communication was abysmal, right? Like you can't get like cut all the time, behind you, and then no one's communicating. That there's something going on there that they got to sort out and button up real quick.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Sorry.
No, just shout out here going back. This is the head coach of the Sky, Tyler Marsh. Just want to give him a shout out. Young brother doing a nice
job. Nelly, I think that and beyond, I think that is a pod. Nelly, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Where can people find you? What's going on with you that you want to share with people, of course.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a couple things, right? I just want to say that. Sorry, I have to make one comment. I feel like the WNBA reserves, they had so many guards, not enough front court. They only had four front court players in the rest regards. And I feel like people like Natasha Howard should have gotten a nod for what she's done for that team and the fact that she was literally the MVP of the Commissioner Cup, and the stuff that she's been able to do with the Fever. So I just think, having 4 front court versus the rest were all guards. Not sure the logic there for the All-Star game. Doesn't make any sense to me. So
Right.
that's something where I feel like they should have picked like half front court, half guards, not just all guards. Because what we're saying to the league is that we're valuing the guards versus the front court in the W,
Wow,
which I don't think is fair.
how talented.
But where to find me? So sorry, guys, that's my caveat. But hey, so typically a couple things. Good Rookies podcast. We're going to be starting recording again. So Good Rookies, the show I do with Randy Holcomb, and we talk sports culture topics. And so we're going to be launching new episodes, new segments. So check out for that at Good Rookies on all your social media platforms. We're also on every podcast platform, iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Pod, you name it. Also YouTube. Cool. Also in the mornings, the Run Daily. That's the show that Ren hosts, and we talk about pretty much all things sports, and we cover a lot of college basketball, women's WNBA on a daily basis. So if you're looking for a space to kind of come to, just listen in the mornings while you're working between 10 and 12 p.m. During the week, check us out. I think it's a good listen. I know Beyond and Hopeful always comes in to contribute their thoughts. So thanks, guys, for always supporting the space. But that's where you can find me. And of course, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. You know what I mean? And I cover NBA, WNBA, CEBL. So I do support the Scarborough Shooting Stars, but I also support Brampton because one of my homies, he's the GM for that team. So big up to the Honey Badgers as well. That's it about me. So yeah, so I'm into like literally, and for those who know, if you go to Scarborough game, you probably didn't see me. I go to all the games. I do post game interviews when I'm there. But I'm just always so proud of Canadian products, Canadian leagues, and having a pro league like the CEBL, and seeing what they're doing with it is phenomenal. So I'm a big supporter of what they're doing there. But literally, check it out. I'm always open to speak to anyone, as Hopeful and Beyond knows. I'm always about supporting our content creators in Canada and our sports culture topics that we want to discuss. So yeah, Hopeful, thank you for having me. Beyond, thank you guys for hosting me. It's been a great time. So hopefully I can come back again.
I'll just say one thing. You got to tell Randy the next time you see him that I know Shea is not his favorite guard, but he likes he does like paint touches, and that guy got, I'm sorry, I think 80% of his points in the paint. So I'm just
Yep.
putting that out there.
Yeah. Listen, I think he hates him, but I think he loves him. I think the hate is more love, because I think what SJ has done, I think historically for us, being in Canada, seeing his growth from college to now, we haven't seen someone become a star in front of our eyes like this in a long time, right? So I think
Especially
it's
not from the last time we had someone this big from Canada. It was from the West Coast. This is the first time
exactly
it's from the GTA.
homegrown.
Yeah.
Yeah, homegrown product. I know folks who trained him when he was here when he was in high school, and I've heard about him literally. Oh, Janelle, you have to meet this guy. I'm like, what? Like everyone, I remember hearing his name all the time, and just seeing his growth from high school to now. It's just an honor. Like Jamal Murray, like all those guys, Nemhard, seeing them all, Ben Matherin. These are all guys we saw younger playing, and now they're in the biggest stage, making names and stuff. So, for me, I'm just so happy as a fan in Canada of basketball, just seeing the growth. And I think they will not be the first of the last. I think we're going to see a lot more, like in the U19. Hope everyone's watching U19. A lot of up and coming stars are on that team that we're going to see, guys, in the NBA in about 2-3 years. So I'm excited for Canadian basketball and Canada culture and sports all together. So it's pretty cool. And of course, the WNBA coming up for us. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Because I'll be going to
Absolutely.
Temple games for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And my final point is, if you're gonna boycott Raptors games, boycott them because the tickets are unaffordable. So yeah, with that
Yes.
being said, it's been fun. It's been great. And stay tuned, stay locked in. You're gonna see more stuff coming out as we just covered the Malik Beasley stuff.
Oh wow.
We're covering it all. So some of the stories are fun. Some of them are not so fun. Some of them, some of them are people people, taking a haircut, and others are people not. So, stay locked in, all things Basketball Rewind, people. And, take care and stay cool in summer. Peace.